Alright, so this is one of the two movable bed CNCs in the shop, and I'm going to go over some of the basic operating procedures for this tutorial. So first thing we've got to do is power the machine on, and the switch is in the back. It's a giant red switch back here, can't miss it. Flip that on. Now this machine will start up. You don't have to do any sort of browsing in the Windows menu like you do in Vail, which I'll show you how to do in just a minute here. But the rest of the controls are going to be exactly the same for both machines. Alright, so an important thing to know about this machine is it's not set up for manual operation. You're going to be doing everything here with the computer. So I'm going to show you how to post your files to this machine, and to do that you need to get on the Shop 2 computer. It's the only computer it's connected to. But in terms of the basic parts of the machine, it's like any of the other CNCs. It's got the table here that is threaded so you can clamp your part down. It's got some doors that you can close so you aren't spraying coolant everywhere. It's got the coolant nozzle right here. And this is how you change the tools, is this thing up here with the green button and the red button to say in and out. And I'll show you how to use that in just a minute. Other than that, this machine is, that's really all there is to this machine. You want to, obviously the last person who used this didn't clean it off very well, but you'll want to clean it off after you use it. You are the one responsible for cleaning it up. So, alright, so I want to go over some of the simple controls here on the computer. Over in the lower right hand corner here is the emergency stop. You just press it to engage it, twist it to disengage it. That's not only for emergencies. Anytime you need to stop it, for whatever reason, you can hit that. This keyboard you're going to use for whatever main programming you need to do, or changing your program if you want to do it on the machine here. These buttons here are for moving the table, adjusting the rates. These here control the spindle and the coolant, and these here will control your program. You see, like the cycle start, cycle cancel, all that. And then there's these two knobs here. This one overrides the spindle speed, and this one overrides the feed rate. So one last feature of this machine is the spindle speed, like main gear. You can change it from high speed to low speed with this knob up here, and you just want to change it when the machine is off, or when the spindle's not moving, rather. And yeah, that just really depends on what your job is if you need to change it to low. Normally it's left and high. So one great feature of this machine is being able to quickly change your tool. So all of the tools look like this. They got this cone-shaped thing on them. What you want to do is you want to wipe these off, wipe the inside off there, so there's no like metal shavings or anything. And these two notches on here are going to line up with the two notches on the spindle here. And this is all done pneumatically. You don't have to really do anything by hand, except for hold this up here, and you go up here to this switch up here, and basically it has a safety screen button right here, and then an in and an out, and it's controlled pneumatically. Of course, you hold the in to insert the tool and hold the out to take it out. Now I'll show you how to do that. So, real simple. Hold the tool up here, press the green button, hold it in, and you hear the machine kind of, the sound change. It kind of makes a ratcheting noise, and that's how you know it's in there. And then of course, obviously, it's not coming out. And then to take it out, just do the opposite. Make sure you got a good grip on this, because you don't want it to fall and break. Press the green button, press it. That's it. That's all there is to it. Alright, so now that we've got the machine turned on, what we have to do is set the machine home. And you can see here a little warning message, machine not set home. So what you do, and it even says right there, press cycle to send machine to home position. And what you do is just turn the feed rate override to the max, which is 200%, you can see right there, and press cycle start. What it'll do, it'll move the table around a little bit, it'll move the spindle up and down, and once it's done, it'll say, and then we can move on. Alright, now that the home position is set, what we're going to do is we are going to override the auto spindle control and warm it up for about 5 minutes or so at about 800 RPM. So if you look here, there's an auto spindle man, and the middle is what the button actually is, so that's the spindle control. And because the light is on the auto, it's on auto. If we hit that, it goes to manual. So that means that we now can control the spindle on and off by pressing these here. And here, right here, see the spindle RPM. Obviously it's not spinning yet, but when we hit on, that's what it's going to spin at. So go ahead and spindle start. Turn it up to about 800 RPM. And we'll just let this sit here for about 5 minutes while it warms up. Alright, now that it's warmed up, we can hit the spin stop. And then we can hit the emergency stop, just to make sure the machine doesn't do anything we don't want it to. And we can go over some of the other buttons here. Now these are pretty simple here. I'm going to go ahead and disengage the emergency stop so we can move stuff around. We have right here the controls for the table. Positive Y, negative Y, positive X, negative X. Now this is different than the knee mill. When you hit positive X, the table will move in that direction, not this direction. So the arrow is a little bit deceiving. And the same thing with the Y. The Z is obvious. If you hit down, the spindle head goes down. Now right here we have incremental and continuous. If we hit this and the light turns off, it's now on continuous. So we can move everything continuously by holding the button. If it's on incremental, then these three buttons here will control the amount that it will go when you increment. So X1 is going to go just 1/10,000th at a time. You see right there. X10 will go 10/10,000ths. And X100 will go 100/1000ths. And of course it works for all the X's. So these buttons down here will control your program, starting the cycle, canceling the cycle. But we'll go over those later when we're actually running the program. The feed rate override here basically will override your program's speed or set the speed of the machine as we're using it right now. And you can see it goes from 2% all the way up to 200% up there in the corner. And the spindle obviously goes from really low to really high, 4,000 RPM. So these buttons over here, obviously we just use this to control the spindle. So we'll turn this back on to auto. You'll want the coolant to be either on auto or manual. If you're going to use it, you can just leave it on auto as long as your program has it enabled. You always want the spindle on clockwise, and you can always leave the brake on auto. And then these other two buttons here are also for the coolant. And I guess the button isn't working for this, but it always needs to be on flood. Because that's all the tool is, or that's all the machine is capable of doing. And then of course these auxiliary buttons here are not used, and these fourth axis buttons are also not used. So now that we've gone over the basics of this, we'll go ahead and get a program uploaded to this and set some zeros, and we'll see where we're at. Alright, so this is kind of a joint operation between the computer, SHOC 2 computer, and this computer to get your program on here. So we have the computer, SHOC number 2, set up already to transfer a file. So what we want to do is we want to come in here and enter the CAM menu. You can do that by pressing the button right underneath it, which happens to be F5 in this case. And then we want to hit NWDNC, which is F2. And then we can go over to the computer and click post. Alright, so you can see that the machine went ahead and accepted the file from the computer. And now it's all set up here and ready to accept some zeros and some tool zeros and run the program. So now I'm going to show you how to do the zeros for this machine. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is just go ahead and clamp this down. Now, we're not going to actually be machining this piece, so I'm just going to clamp it down to hold it in place while we zero it. Alright, so now we got this clamped down, we are going to go ahead and zero two tools, since that's what our program has. So we're going to install tool number 1. Actually, the order doesn't really matter, but we're going to go tool number 1 first. And we're going to go ahead and jog this down. That close, and then we can incrementally get it a little closer. And then just like before with the other machines, just going to put a piece of paper under here. We're going to do the increment by 1/10,000th of an inch. Just keep on one increment at a time until the paper is locked down. Alright, there, that's locked down. So now, we can come out to the computer here, and we can press the setup key right here, F1. And we are setting up, now you don't have to memorize these menus, just read the menu. What are we setting up? We are setting up the tool. So we can press the tool button. And then what we want to do is we want to set the offset library, F1. Now, what we've got here is a list of tools. We only have 2 tools in this part, so we can scroll down between them using these arrows. But we're only interested in these 2. So, we go up here, and what we want to do is not press the Z reference button. We want to press the measure button. On the other machine, it's going to be, I believe it's going to say MAN, but on this machine it says MEAS. We're going to go and press that, and what that did is that changed that number right there. You can see Z was reading that. So now the tool is reading that. So now we're good to go. We can hit save. And then we can hit escape to back out of the menu. Oh, maybe I didn't hit save. So, save. There we go. Now we can back out of the menu. Alright, so now we're ready to go ahead and do our other tool. So we can go and raise Z up. And take our tool out and put the new one in. So now I'll show you the view from the control panel here. Well, the best that I can. Now, I'm just adjusting the speed for the continuous movement of this. Now, go down incrementally. Remember, light on means it's incremental. Go quite a bit first. We can kind of step it down one at a time until you get close. Alright, so now, again, go to setup, tool, offset library, and we want to scroll down if it's not already at the second tool. Hit measure, changes it to what the currency is, save, and we can exit out of the menu. And that is how you set the zeros of your tools. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and zero the X and the Y edges of the part. So what I've got is just the regular chuck in here. I've got the edge finding tool. Go ahead and insert this in here. Okay. Now we can lower the machine, get it roughly in the right position. Now what you want to do is go ahead and turn on the manual spindle. Set the spindle spin about 800 RPM. Good. Go ahead and start it up. Now the procedure is going to be exactly the same as the other mills in terms of where the actual edge is. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and turn down the feed rate. And we're going to go on continuous until we get a little closer. Alright. So now, we turn on the incremental. I'm just going times 10 for right now. Until it offsets it. Okay, so that was too much. So now what we can do is we can back off at times 1. And sometimes if you don't have the best tool, you have to kind of touch to make sure it's actually in the right spot. Alright, so that's 0 for the Y direction. So what we're going to do is go back into the setup menu, and this time we're setting up the part. So we hit F1. So it does, it brings up this picture here of what axis you're on. Now, we are not doing the x-axis right now, so we hit next axis. Okay, now we're doing the y-axis, and it even shows a picture. We approached it from the front. Now you can approach it from the back side too, but in this case we didn't. So, what we want to do is the diameter of our edge finder is 0.2 inches. So all we need to do is press 0.2. And now all we need to do is press set, which is right here, F10. And you can see that it didn't put it to 0, it put it to negative 0.1 to account for the diameter of the part, or of the tool that we used to do this. So now, we can either back out of this menu if we're done, but we're not done yet, so we can just hit next axis until we get to X. And then we can go ahead and turn this on continuous. Back out away from there. And cruise over to our X direction. Now again, we're approaching it from the left side. Get close, turn on incremental, times 100. I gotta kind of offset the tool a little bit here. Once we get close, we can do times 10. Too far. Alright, we'll accept that as our 0. Yeah, edge finder diameter is already in there, so we can just hit set. Sets itself to 0 there. Escape out of this menu. And now, we have our part and tools all set up and we are ready to run our program. Alright, so once you got your program loaded, it's going to be time to start your cycle. Now, first thing to do is go ahead and turn on your spindle. And I have the auto off, and I just adjust it with this overlay right here. So we're gonna hit cycle start. Hit it again. You can adjust the feed rate over right here. Right now the program is actually running. And now first thing it did is it took the Z all the way up, asked you to insert tool 1, which I already have, and to press cycle start again once you get that in. And it wants you to do auto spindle, which is fine, you can still override it. What you want to do is you know the position, the first position, so what you want to do is as it gets close to the part, you're going to want to feed hold. And what that does is it just stops everything except for the spindle. And you make sure that your X and Y and your Z is actually what you're looking for. What you can do is turn down your feed rate even more. Press cycle start again. Make sure that it gets to your part at Z equals 0. Again, check your X, Y, make sure everything looks good. If everything looks good, dude, you can go ahead and go for it. Alright, so again, we're going to find the center of this ring here. This time we're going to use the movable bed CNCs. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the spindle speed for 800. Turn it on. And just as before, we're going to slowly move. Alright, and once we find that edge, we're going to do something a little bit different than finding the outside edge. Alright, so now that we've found the edge on the left side, this procedure is a little bit different. Basically, we're not going to put in a value for the edge finder diameter. It's going to be 0. And of course, we're on the x-axis. So all we need to do is set it. Alright, so now, go ahead and take the machine over to the other side and make sure you don't hit Y's, otherwise you're going to have to redo the X. Alright, so now that we've got this value, all we do is put it in the calculator here. 2.0869. Divide that value by 2. 1.0434. So we'll go ahead and move that over. Alright, what we can do is again, keep the edge finder diameter 0. Go ahead and set it here. And that is the center of your part in the x-axis. Now the same can be done for the y-axis. I'm not going to bother showing that, kind of waste of time. But you want to make sure you go ahead and check it with a caliper or a tape measure or ruler or whatever to make sure that it is actually what you expect it to be.